Tonight, you'll close a door, climb into a soft mattress, adjust the temperature, and fall asleep beside your partner in privacy. Now erase all of that. Imagine an ancient couple preparing for the night without modern beds, private bedrooms, or climate control. Were they truly alone, or were children, relatives, animals, or other people nearby? We can't watch their private lives directly. Archaeology only leaves clues. And the biggest surprise begins with one question. Where did these couples actually sleep? The first thing to understand is that an ancient couple usually didn't step into anything resembling the bedroom you know today. Across different societies and periods, people slept on woven mats, animal skins, simple bedding, packed surfaces, or raised platforms. There was enormous variation, but one thing was often different. The sleeping space was not necessarily a separate room. In some homes, daily life happened within a shared interior space. Cooking, working, eating, talking, and sleeping could all take place under the same roof. A couple might have had a particular corner or sleeping area, but there was not always a solid wall separating them from everyone else. And circumstances mattered. Geography, climate, wealth, social status, household size, and local customs could completely change the arrangement. A wealthy household might have offered more separation than a poor one. A cold environment demanded different solutions from a hot one. So privacy did not always require an empty room. Sometimes it meant simply having a small space that others understood was yours. But that raises a more interesting question. How did couples find privacy when everyone was so close? If there was no private bedroom, then where did a couple get a moment that belonged only to them? Privacy doesn't always require four walls and a locked door. In some households, people could create separation through corners of a dwelling, partitions, designated sleeping areas, or simply by organizing who slept where. A couple might occupy one part of a shared space, while other family members used another. In some circumstances, nighttime routines themselves could create brief periods of separation. But the physical arrangement was only part of the story. Social rules mattered too. People understood boundaries, relationships, and expectations even when walls were absent. A space could be considered private because everyone knew it was meant to be private. The important distinction is that these possibilities are not the same as direct evidence. Archaeological remains can reveal the shape of homes, sleeping surfaces, and household spaces, but they rarely preserve what two people actually did after everyone went to sleep. So, we can reconstruct the setting with some confidence. The private moments inside it are much harder to see. And that leaves another question. What did it actually feel like to sleep beside someone in such a world? Strip away the ancient setting, and one part of the night may feel surprisingly familiar. Couples could lie beside each other, rest together, share warmth, show affection, and simply fall asleep in the same space. The surroundings were different, but the basic human need for companionship was not. In colder environments, staying close could also have a practical advantage. Body heat mattered when temperatures dropped and bedding was limited. A partner could literally become part of the night's warmth. But in hot climates, the logic could reverse. Airflow might matter more than closeness, and creating a little distance could make sleep more comfortable. The size of the sleeping surface, the available bedding, and the number of people sharing the space could all influence how a couple positioned themselves. There was no single ancient sleeping position. No universal nighttime routine existed across thousands of years and countless cultures. Climate, customs, household structure, and personal preference all played a role. And temperature was only the beginning. Once the sun disappeared, the environment itself could completely change the rules of the night. Imagine the sun disappearing over an ancient settlement. The temperature drops. Darkness spreads through a shelter that has no electric lights, no thermostat, and no sealed windows. Suddenly, sleep becomes less about comfort and more about managing the environment. On a cold night, bedding, fire, shelter design, and proximity to another person could matter enormously. Staying close might conserve warmth, while a poorly insulated shelter could make every degree important. Now reverse the scene. In a hot climate, the problem was not keeping heat in, but getting rid of it. Ventilation, shade, airflow, and cooler sleeping locations could become more valuable than thick bedding or close contact. And temperature was only one threat. Insects could make sleep miserable. Smoke from a fire could fill a poorly ventilated space. Storms could force people deeper inside. Depending on the environment, animals or predators could also influence where and when people rested. Nighttime was not simply the peaceful end of the day, it was another survival problem. And there was something else waiting inside many ancient homes. Other people. Now imagine finally settling down beside your partner, expecting the world to go quiet. But instead, you hear someone breathing nearby. A child shifts in the darkness. A relative turns over. Somewhere close, an animal moves against the shelter. For many ancient households, the people sharing a home could extend far beyond a couple. Depending on the society, a household might include children, parents, relatives, servants, or other members of an extended family. The architecture itself could make complete separation difficult. A single dwelling might contain several people, with sleeping areas divided by little more than space, furniture, curtains, or simple partitions. In some communities, animals were also kept close to domestic areas, whether for protection, warmth, convenience, or practical reasons. That did not mean every ancient family slept together in one crowded room. Household structures varied enormously across time, geography, wealth, and culture. But the important point is this: going to bed did not automatically mean entering a private bedroom. Ancient couples could have moments of privacy, but they often existed within a much more communal world than ours. And that changes the question. Intimacy was not simply about what happened on a bed. It was about how two people found space for each other inside an entire household. But intimacy in the ancient world was never simply a question of where two people slept. It could mean sitting together after a long day, sharing food, talking in the darkness, caring for children, working side by side, or simply knowing that another person was there. Physical affection could be part of that bond, but so could companionship and trust. Marriage and partnership also carried responsibilities that could be very different from those expected today. In many societies, relationships were connected to family alliances, economic survival, household labor, inheritance, and having children. Affection existed within those larger social structures. And nighttime could offer something valuable: time away from the demands of daylight. After hours of hunting, farming, gathering, cooking, building, caring for children, or other work, darkness could finally slow the world down. But there was no single ancient experience of love or marriage. A wealthy couple and a struggling household could live completely different lives. Culture, status, family expectations, and personal relationships all mattered. The more we look, the harder it becomes to find one ancient answer. Because there wasn't one. And here's the biggest surprise: there was no single ancient way of sleeping beside a partner. Ancient humans covers thousands of years and countless cultures. A prehistoric hunter-gatherer household was nothing like an agricultural settlement centuries later. A wealthy household could have very different sleeping arrangements from a poor one. A couple living in a cold region faced completely different nighttime problems from one living in a hot climate. Even within the same community, circumstances changed. A couple with several children faced a different reality from newly married partners. Household size, social status, available space, cultural rules, and personal preferences all mattered. So, there was no universal sleeping position, nighttime ritual, or arrangement. The most accurate answer is simpler. Ancient couples adapted their nighttime lives to the world around them. And that makes our own bedrooms look surprisingly unusual. Tonight, when you close your bedroom door, adjust the temperature, switch off the lights, and sink into a mattress, it will feel completely ordinary. But historically, it is anything but ordinary. Modern couples have privacy, controlled temperatures, soft mattresses, artificial lighting, doors, and personal space. Ancient couples had darkness, changing weather, limited bedding, shared shelters, and often other people nearby. Yet beneath all those differences, something remains familiar. Humans still seek rest, warmth, companionship, and closeness. The surprising part is not that ancient couples slept differently. It is that our private bedroom became normal only after generations of technological and social change. And suddenly, our bedroom doesn't look so ordinary anymore.